Welcome into STB Sports Take, simply the best sports podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. Whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts, we're grateful you're here, and we are everywhere. You guys, good show today. We're talking a lot of different things. We've got a little Luka Doncic. We've got a little LeBron James versus MJ. We've got a big breaking story out of the NBA. We've got a little finals preview. So good stuff. We're going to start, though, with the New York Knicks and Tom Thibodeau. The New York Knicks wasted no time making some offseason moves. Tom Thibodeau fired today as head coach. And here's the thing, they had to do it. Tibbs is a good coach. He's just not a championship coach. That's just a fact. Their hand was forced, in my personal opinion, if you want to win championships. He's a good coach. He's just not a championship coach. And there's mountains of evidence supporting that. He's been a head coach in the NBA now for 15 years. He's been to the conference finals twice, once in 2011 with MVP Derrick Rose, and once just barely this year with Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. This year they lost in 6. They were overachieving, in my opinion. In 2011, with Derrick Rose, they lost in 5 to LeBron James and the Heat. He's never been to a finals. He's 67 years old. He does have like a 57.9% winning percentage, so wins 58% of his regular season games. But he has not even won his own division in 13 years. So I like Tibbs. I would never, ever wish ill on anyone. I just think that with his track record of not being a championship coach, not getting to the finals, playing his star players too many minutes, having too tight of a rotation, being 67 years old, it just feels like there's so many things stacked up that tell you, hey, if you want to win a championship, this isn't the way, this isn't the guy. It's time to go take a chance on some fresh, new faces. And I think when people do that, good things happen. You got to break out of your comfort zone a little bit. There's safety in Tibbs. You're going to have a winning record. You'll probably make the playoffs. You'll probably be just good enough to fill up the seats and give the fans something to cheer about. But are you going to be really competing for a title? I don't think you are. Did anyone really think the Knicks were going to win it this year? No. Did they start to get hope when they saw the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals with none of the, quote-unquote blue buds, the legacy stars awaiting them after that? Yeah, people started to have hope, but nobody really thought they could get it done, and they didn't. So to me, this was a move that the Knicks absolutely had to make. I don't see how you could really argue that. I mentioned yesterday that I didn't think that Jalen Brunson is a great number one option, and I also don't think that Tibbs is a great head coach. And I don't mean that, again, I don't mean that rudely. It's tough sometimes to criticize because, you don't want to be an armchair quarterback, so to speak, right? But I think it's proven that he's just not that guy. And you look at guys, I look at like a Phil Jackson when he came in, or when Steve Kerr came and took over for the Warriors. Those were teams that were accomplishing things but weren't quite getting over the hump, and then boom, they got over the hump. I look at the same thing in the NFL. They bring in fresh young faces like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, and they're just able to get places that they weren't getting before. I look at the Commanders, my team. We had Ron Rivera. He'd been to a Super Bowl. He was an old established guy. You knew you were going to improve with him from the year before. But was it going to ever be like Super Bowl worthy stuff? No, it wasn't. Dan Quinn comes in, boom, immediately NFC Championship. So I just think that getting new, fresh faces is oftentimes the better choice, and that's the case in all things in life, really. You can go with what's safe. You can play it safe if you're okay with being good, but if you really, really want to be great, oftentimes you have to take bigger risks. And the Knicks are a franchise that have to take bigger risks right now if they want to be a championship team. They're just too good of a franchise, too big of a franchise. They're actually not that good, if we're being honest. They have not won a championship in my lifetime, and I'm 43 years old. So to have the biggest market in America and have 0 championships in the last 50-something years, whatever it's been, I think it was 1970-something the last time they won. It's just too long. They've got to make moves. They've got some star players right now with Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. They've got a great defensive team. They've got a team that's hungry. They're going to need one more key player, one more star, and a different head coach. And I think right at that point, they will be a true legitimate contender. Because right now, I wouldn't even put them ahead of the Celtics, even though they beat the Celtics. So to me, it was a good move by the Knicks, one they had to do. And again, no ill will towards Tibbs. I wish him all the best. I'm sure he'll get another job if he wants one. Even though if I was a GM, I wouldn't hire him for all the reasons I stated. He's 67 years old, and he's kind of stuck in some ways that prove to not get you the results you want. If you want to be good, yeah, go get Tibbs. If you want to be great, keep looking for someone else. I feel the same way about Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is living 15 years or 17 years now, 18 years, whatever it is, past his '08 championship with the Celtics, the first true, legit, crazy Big Three superstar team. He gets one title, and somehow he's still living off of that 15, 18 years later, you know? So to me, you got to go get younger, newer guys to be your coach. So, all right. Moving on, Luka's breakup revenge bot is in full effect against Nico Harrison and the Mavericks. Take a look at these photos. It looks like Luka's dropped a few LBs if you ask me. Now, this is interesting because Luka's a guy that had the chance to do this for several years. He was told he needed to do it. And I called this from the start. Of course he was going to do this. Of course he is. This is a mix of two things. One, a very, very humbling wake-up call that he had when he was traded as like arguably a top 2-3 player in the entire league. He's traded away from the team that he loved and that he thought loved him. So massive wake-up call. It's a combination of that and being mentored by LeBron James, who takes care of his body at the highest level. He's now 40 and still getting it done. So this is a combination of those two things. I knew this was going to happen, but the thing is, it wasn't going to happen in Dallas. So this is like I say, it's the breakup revenge bot. It's like all the things that your ex wanted you to do, you finally go do them, but now you're doing them out of spite instead of out of like love, right? So Luka's doing this. It's a wake-up call. He looks good. I'm sure LeBron's helping him, taking him under his wing and helping him out. It'll be interesting to see how good the Lakers are next year and how long Luka stays with the Lakers. But he's looking pretty slim, if you ask me. I don't know if this is touched up AI. I don't think it is. I'm not sure how he was able to drop this much weight in just a few weeks of the off season when he couldn't do this during the season when they're practicing and playing and whatnot. But either way, he's looking really good. Luka was one of my favorite players for years, up until about 2 or 3 years ago when he kind of became a little bit of a diva. It felt like the whining and complaining got out of control. He was always screaming at the refs. He was flopping more. He was sulking on the court more, things like that. And I started to like him less and less. But this is a guy who has potential to win multiple MVPs, to be a number one on a championship contending team. And I think getting traded was probably the wake-up call he needed to kind of reignite that true competitive fire that he has and become the best player he can be, because he's getting to, he's still very, very young, but the older you get, the harder it is to rely on just your sheer athleticism and raw talent. You have to really perfect your craft and stay in really, really good shape, or you're going to get caught up to and then even left behind. So I think this was a good thing for Luka. I think the Mavericks could have gotten way, way more in the trade, but I'm happy for Luka. I hope he's able to go and prove the haters wrong and get the last laugh on that trade. But then again, of course, they've got Cooper Flagg coming to Dallas, assuming they keep that pick, which is a story for another day. We'll see. But Luka Doncic looking good. Michael Jordan enhances his own GOAT case while, get this, defending LeBron. You can't make this stuff up. This is so good. Take a look at this quote. MJ, of course, is going to be with NBC next year, being a contributor. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but he had this to say. So basically, he says his fan base has a little bit of a toxic energy, and he says that he doesn't like the fact that they're acting like he played every game and never made any mistakes. And you can see the full quote here. For those just listening, I'll read it. But the narrative surrounding Jordan has often painted him as a flawless embodiment of basketball perfection, undefeated in the finals, unmatched in competitiveness, the standard by which all must be measured. Yeah, that's actually kind of true, if we're being honest. Doesn't mean he's perfect, but he is the standard by which all greatness in basketball should be measured for the time being. And while Jordan never shied away from competition, he now believes that this one-dimensional portrayal has done more harm than good. He said it before in private, the NBC source says, that the narrative of 6-0 has become toxic. It ignores his losses. It ignores the teams that helped him get there. And worst of all, it punishes the greatness of today just because it's different. Well, let me say this. It is different. No one is winning 6 championships in 8 years, so that part is different. No one is winning 3 in a row, taking a 2-year break to play professional baseball, and then winning 3 more in a row. So really, he won 6 in a row, if we're being honest. Michael Jordan only played 11 real full seasons with the Chicago Bulls. He played 13, but one of them was his second season, where he broke his foot and missed all but like 17 games. Another one was when he came back from baseball at the very, very end. He'd been off for 2 years and also only played 17 games. So you really cannot count. No one in their right mind can count either of those seasons as like legitimate shots at winning anything because he was injured or out of the sport entirely. for 80% of the season, okay? He still comes back that second season, and that's when he scored the 63 in the playoffs against the Celtics. And then we know what happened when he was number 45. You can't quite get it done in the Eastern Conference Finals, or maybe it was the second round, but can't get it done, and then he goes and three-peats again. So in his 11 full legitimate seasons, he won 6 championships. So yeah, he is different. He is very different than anything we're seeing today. That part is true. The irony of this is that it only is going to embolden his fan base even more to realize just how much of a GOAT he is, because this is what a GOAT would say. A GOAT does not tell everybody he's the GOAT because he doesn't need to. Everyone else is saying it for him. It's like the guy who has to constantly tell you how funny he is, or how rich he is, or how cool he is. Real people with real confidence don't need to do that. Everyone else is doing it for them. That is Michael Jordan. The LeBron fans that are doing it, they're kind of like the Android user that has to constantly try and convince you that their Android is better than your iPhone. When all of us with iPhones are just like, yeah, dude, like, that's a great feature on your Android. I really like it. No, we get it. We know that the iPhone's better. We know Michael Jordan is better. And this type of humility is really nothing new for Michael Jordan. Now, he's a very confident guy, even arrogant at times. But this is the thing he's been saying his entire career, including when he was playing and talking about, like, I didn't play against Wilt Chamberlain or against Jerry West, and so it wouldn't be fair. It's very different than when you get out of LeBron. Have a look at this.
Not here campaigning for the best player in the world or in the history. I'm not saying that, because everybody plays differently in different areas.
If I was a GM of a franchise that was starting up and I had the number 1 pick, I'd take me.
Start comparing, who's the best of all time. I never can accept that role. There's a lot of old guys that influenced my game.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time. That's what I felt.
So crazy.
And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
If you care about being called the greatest basketball player ever, does that matter? Do you want that?
I don't want it in a sense because I think it disrespects Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, all the guys that prior to me, I never had a chance to play against. And when I hear it, I cringe a little bit because, it's a little bit embarrassing because no one knows.
GOAT. What are you talking about? Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me, man. That's what I do, man.
That last one's kind of fun from LeBron. It's just him with his sons out front of his house. But there's a huge difference there. I mean, this is something Jordan's been saying his entire career. That he doesn't even want that title, but he's so great, and he so clearly is the greatest that it's just shoved upon him. Whereas LeBron being the greatest, really that narrative was started by him. Everyone agrees that he's one of the greatest, but somehow that's not enough. It must be more. I get it. His longevity is phenomenal. Really appreciate LeBron while we've got him. So a huge difference there between the two. I mean, are they both fantastic? Are they both all-time greats? Are they both GOATs kind of in their own right? Yes, they are, but the GOAT, the greatest of all time, is clearly Michael Jordan, and this only enhances his case. That's the irony of it. In his attempt to lessen it and give more credit to LeBron, more credit to Steph, more credit to other guys, he only enhanced it because it's like, dang, that's exactly what a real GOAT would say. Meanwhile, the faux GOATs, the phony GOATs, the fake ones, are out here like the Android users telling us how much we got to go get their phone when we all know we've got the best one there already is. So, again, no hate to LeBron. Appreciate him while we've got him. In fact, that leads me into my next thing I want to talk about. LeBron James, at age 40, has been named second-team All-NBA. Now, the question is, was he deserving? Or is a little bit of empty calorie stats? Let's take a look. I will say this, I do think LeBron was deserving, but there's an interesting thing that we've got to note here, and that is that he is the only guy of all 3 All-NBA teams to have a negative plus-minus. Take a look at this. The only guy, and not just by a little bit, by a lot. The next closest to him is Jalen Brunson, who is 200 points ahead of him. To have a negative plus-minus as a star on a winning team is a very, very difficult thing to do, but LeBron James managed to do it. So to me, this is a very, very telling stat. Now, that said, there are some other things we should look at. And again, keep in mind, he's 40. It's crazy impressive what he's doing. Appreciate him while he's here because we will miss him when he's gone. That said, his defense is really, really below average, and I do think a lot of his stats are some empty calorie stats. And the fact that he has a negative plus minus for the entirety of the season as a star on a winning team is evidence of that. There are other guys doing a lot more than they get credit for on that team. And he's racking up the stats. I get it, but I just don't view all-time stats as like the go-to thing. Like there's nothing that we really do that with. Like I still would put Barry Sanders as probably the greatest running back of all time, right? So there's a lot more to it than just like who has the most total points or whatever. But LeBron, I will say this. By the way, his plus minus was number 383 in the entire league. And I checked the last 2 seasons. He's the only guy to have a negative plus minus that made All NBA for this year or either of the last 2 years. I didn't go back any further than that, but I think it's safe to say it's probably very, very rare that this happens. He did, however, finish 13th in PER. He was 26th in win shares, but only 44th in defensive win shares. He was 7th in value over replacement. So some of those advanced metrics, he did score pretty well. And there's a clip I want to show. If I'll share my screen again here, it's still sharing. Okay, cool. So a clip I want to show of Mario Chalmers talking about how much LeBron takes care of his body. And this is why he's able to do what he's doing at 40. And this is the kind of thing that Luka can learn from and grow from and get better at and lengthen his career by several years. Take a look.
What do you think the most impressive thing that LeBron is doing currently?
I always said that the way he take care of his body, the way he pay attention to his treatment and stay on schedule with that, that attests to his longevity and never really being hurt or having a major injury. So just the way his body's holding up, like his skill set is going to be his skill set. He puts the work in. You see him putting the work in after games or after practices. He's always the last one shooting or someone getting up shots or working on different moves. So the way what he puts into the game is what he gets out.
When you was there with him, did you have any idea that LeBron James would still be playing 12 years later?
No lie, I did. Just because, like, I tell people this all the time, Brown would really get treatment if he was in the club. Like, he would literally have something on his knees and something on his back inside the club. So it's like, once somebody's doing that, like, that's a real dedication to just be in the club with treatment.
This man, hold on. Real, this man got
whatever.
ice bags on his knees. He got ice bags on his back.
Not ice bags. It'd be like the stem, like the stem machine where it's like shooting electrolyte or electricity in your knees and stuff like that. Just hamstrings, like lower back. Like he always got something that's recovering, making his body recover.
Damn.
So that's the thing. It's like once you see that, like that's a different type of dedication. Like I had to take my hat off to that one.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. So that's Shannon Sharp talking to Mario Chalmers. Chalmers, of course, played with LeBron in Miami, won a couple championships with him. But that's the kind of like dedication he has. So again, my hat goes off to him. His greatness is undeniable. I just don't think he's Michael Jordan. Do I think he was deserving of second team All-NBA? Probably not, if I'm being totally honest. To have a negative plus minus for the entirety of the season, like I say, as a star player on a winning team, that's really hard to do. So it tells me that there's more help around him than the other players get credit for. But he did put up big numbers, so he probably deserved third team All-NBA. But either way, crazy impressive what he's doing at age 40. All right, back to the NBA playoffs. I, of course, successfully predicted that the Pacers would win in 6 and that the Thunder would win in 5. They both did. I'm now saying the Thunder will win in 5 over the Pacers. But I got to go back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the the MVP award, the Larry Bird Trophy that they do now for the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals, went to Pascal Siakam, and rightfully so. It could have been Tyrese Halliburton, but he had a horrendous Game 5 that really kept him from doing it. But if you didn't see what happened after the game when they were awarding it, clearly, Halliburton that is, clearly thought that he was going to win the MVP, and it was a little bit of a Drewski moment for him. But check this out.
This is the Larry Bird Trophy. It goes to the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. And that MVP is Pascal Siakam.
That's so funny to me. So Halliburton played great. He really did. But he had such a bad Game 5 with 8 points and he was like a minus 15 or something for the game. Let me see if I can find it here. But a minus 23. So Siakam had 15 points in that game. It was only a minus 1. So that was like Indiana's worst game by far was Game 5. And I think if Halliburton had played a little bit better, he would have won the MVP. But Siakam did average like 4 more points per game for the series. But Halliburton averaged more rebounds, more assists, more steals, but Siakam more points and shot a higher percentage. So Siakam gets the MVP, but such a funny moment. So from this, want to move on to the TNT crew. This was the TNT crew's last game as the NBA on TNT. It's getting overplayed a little bit. Like, we're never going to see the NBA on TNT again, but we are going to see Inside the NBA. In fact, it's going to be called that, and it's going to be the same crew. And anyway, let's take a look at this video.
We look forward. The four of us, as you've already heard, the four of us are going to be together. Our production crew is going to be together. It's going to be that same bunch. We're still going to be shooting that show in Atlanta. It's just going to air somewhere else. And so the craziness that you've seen, the nonsense and the foolishness and the top-notch basketball analysis, all of that stuff's going to be on. It's going to be on ESPN or ABC next year, not on TNT. For that, it's we're sad. But I'm proud to say for the last time, thanks for watching us. It's the NBA on TNT.
Before we go, guys, let's do the mic drop.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts there. One, Shaq kind of ruined a cool moment by having the last word after the last word was already had. Ernie definitely deserves the last word in that moment, and he did it and delivered it in a great way. And then Shaq has his little planned mic drop thing, kind of cute, whatever. But it should have ended with Ernie saying, "This is the last time," or "For the last time, this is the NBA on TNT." So I thought Shaq kind of ruined the moment a teeny bit there, if I'm being honest. But the other thing is, they're not going anywhere. He just said that. Like, they're still going to do the same show, the same production, the same crew here, the same production crew, but it won't be on TNT. They're going to license it out to ESPN. I do think there's a little bit of concern that ESPN could potentially ruin the show. I mean, ESPN has by far the worst pregame, by far the worst halftime, by far the worst postgame. So they got nowhere to go but up by adding Inside the NBA. But I think the fear among the TNT crew is ESPN going to ruin it with their ways? Because Shaq earlier was dropping F-bombs on the broadcast, like, we're not coming to F around, we're going to do things our way. And it's like, okay, there's clearly like a little bit of like animosity there, a little bit of concern. You could see how hard it was for Ernie to say, like, we're just going to be on ESPN or ABC. Like, it was hard for him. So interesting thing to take note of there. But again, it's not like they're dying. If anything, we should be talking about Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller and some of the people that are actually part of the actual game broadcast, because I don't know what's going to happen with all of them. But inside the NBA crew, they're still going to be there. It's the rest of the group that we're worried about. Kevin Harlan's like one of the greatest play-by-play commentators ever. I'm sure he'll land somewhere great, but that's something more to look at. All right, build your perfect lineup. Take a look at this. Now, this is unique because they've actually got a position player at each dollar amount. So it's not just all quarterbacks at the $5 and then all receivers at the $4 mark and running backs at the $3 mark and then another wide receiver at the $2 mark. You've got one of each position at each dollar level. So right off the bat, if you're looking at this, if you're not taking Joe Burrow, you're insane, because he is far and away one of the elite 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. And for $1, I'm taking him, no questions asked. So right off the bat, I got to take Joe Burrow, and I got to take Terry McLaurin, because at $2, Terry McLaurin is an absolute steal. This guy puts up huge numbers regardless of who his quarterback is. You give him a little bit of stability with Jaden Daniels now, or in this hypothetical with Joe Burrow, he's going to go off. So absolutely, I'm taking Joe Burrow and Terry McLaurin. Now I've got 2 studs for only $3, and that leaves me with $12 left over. So you tell me. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. That gets me now up to $8, leaves me $7 left, and I got to fill up 2 spots. I would take Puka Nacua and then George Kittle to round out my perfect team for $15. Tell me what you guys think. Who would you take? All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining STB Sports Take, simply the best sports podcast. Please find us on all social media channels: TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We are out. Peace.